Today, we're going to talk about how to stay calm when an ex ignores you, which, believe you me, is no easy feat. In fact, this entire discussion was inspired by a comment we got in our private Facebook support group. Basically, the comment reads this: okay, how do people manage their emotions when an ex clearly ignores your text? And really, the name of the game, I think, when it comes to staying calm when an ex ignores you is emotional control. You always hear us talking about it, but one of the things we've not really done a good job is explaining how to achieve it. Well, that changes today because I'm going to list out the 3 core pillars of obtaining emotional control: the around the world technique, having a bigger purpose in the world than your ex, and treating a breakup like the stock market. Well, let's dive in, because I think this is going to be one of the most honest discussions I've ever had on this topic. So let's first start with pillar number 1, the around the world technique. This is going to be kind of a weird admission, but I have always thought of relationships and people as like little planets revolving around us, like planets to a sun. Those closest to the sun are the ones the sun holds most dear. Those farthest away are still important, but the connection is not quite as powerful. So I actually, in preparation for this video, decided I was going to draw a graphic. So I'm going to post that up on the screen right now so that you can see that. So something really interesting happens when we get into a relationship that we deeply care about. So our little solar system, you have you as the sun, you have maybe a boyfriend and girlfriend revolving around you closest, you have sort of maybe family members revolving around pretty close, you've got friends, you've got colleagues, whatever. But what's interesting is when you get into a relationship with someone else, your boyfriend and girlfriend, our little solar system almost becomes entangled with our partner's solar system. And eventually, the 2 solar systems begin to merge and warp until you actually start prioritizing your partner more than anything. And after a while, you give up ownership of your entire solar system so that your ex becomes the sun around which you revolve. And it ends up looking something like this. So instead of you being the solar system or the sun that the worlds revolve around, your ex becomes the world that you're revolving around, becomes the sun that you're revolving around. Your schedule changes. You start bowing down to their wishes, what they want. And in a way, it's even worse when they break up with you. It almost locks your trajectory around them for the immediate future because you're so desperate to get them back or put things back to the way they were before the breakup. But revolving your life around someone else is a dangerous proposition. You lose a bit of yourself. Your hopes, your dreams are no longer your own. And the way you feel when your ex actually ignores you when you reach out to them is almost worse themselves. And the solution ultimately seems kind of simple, right? Just knock your ex off that pedestal so that you reclaim ownership of your own little solar system. Yet, it's not that simple. A couple of weeks ago, I was actually on a training coaching call with one of our new coaches, Sean and Nicole. And this occurred to me. It's so hard to let go of an ex and reclaim your own solar system because doing so is essentially the same as a sun going supernova. Now, if you don't know what happens when a sun goes supernova, allow me to educate you. Everything goes boom. Sun goes boom, planets go boom, all life go boom. That's the simple way. So here's my point. It's not easy to blow up your solar system and start anew, especially when you have months or years of ingrained behavior of thinking and acting the same way every single day. But if you want to stay calm when an ex ignores you, well, I think it's time to take back ownership of your own little solar system. And you're going to do that by accomplishing pillar number 2. Pillar number 2 is having a bigger purpose than your ex. Now, it sort of goes with the territory of revolving around your ex's sun, but for many of our clients, they have no greater purpose to devote themselves to other than winning their ex back. Yet for me, that's a shallow life. I guess it's the whole deathbed argument. Now, this can be kind of morbid, but indulge me here. Imagine you're dying. You're barely clinging on to your last breath, and your life flashes across your eyes. What would you have to see for it to be worth it to you, to have a life well lived? Something tells me obsessing about an ex who ignores you isn't going to be on the top of that list. In fact, one of my favorite movies, Before Midnight, had a story that put this into practice. This really profound line was delivered. There was a character named Anna. She said, "My grandmother's mother wrote to our whole family a 26-page letter from her deathbed. She spent 3 pages on the costumes she did for a play and only 1 paragraph on her husband." Another character named Jessie says, "Was she an actress too? Then Anna says, no, she was. And then in French says, how do you say seamstress? And then Celine, who speaks French, says, no, seamstress, the seamstress. Ah, seamstress. Well, she had all these wonderful friends. And my great grandfather, she mentioned really only three events. He went to war, we moved because of his job, and he died. Her big advice was to not be too consumed with romantic love. Friendships and work, she said, brought her the most happiness. Now, here's my point. When reading that sort of internal story, and it's a make believe story from the movie, maybe the writer of the movie actually put something real in there, but it strikes a little true because breakups sort of tend to cause us to hyper analyze our relationships. But at the end of the day, even with the very best relationship in the world, we'll still end up feeling hollow, like something is missing. Why? Well, it's because romantic relationships don't completely define us as human beings. They are an important part of our lives, don't get me wrong. But for us to feel truly fulfilled as humans, we need to have other things in our life, goals, ambitions, dreams. What's yours? You'd be surprised at how often I ask that to my clients only to get the following response. Well, I want to get married. And you know the most ironic part? Those that have actually achieved that relationship goal don't find it fulfilling at the end of their life. And I think it's because in a successful marriage, we grow together. We help each other achieve our ambitions outside of the relationship. The issue with living your entire life and revolving around a singular person is that it takes your ability to contribute to the world in a meaningful way away. So here's my theory. You've heard of my Trinity concept, right? Health, wealth, relationships, dividing your life up into these three specific categories and dedicating your time to filling each of these cups. You can kind of find a balance, a happiness, but you need a global goal for each of these categories. So for health, it would look something like, okay, well, my main goal for health is completing a marathon. For relationships, it could be marriage. Hey, I want to get married. For wealth, it could be getting a book deal or a promotion at work. But here's the thing that people miss. Once you've achieved those goals, you don't stop. And people can argue, well, what is there more than marriage? Well, maybe kids. And then maybe relationships become more about teaching your kids, helping them learn, helping them experience the world. What about health? Well, marathon, why not try 2 marathons or 3 marathons? Why not try an Ironman? Wealth, well, okay, I got a promotion at work. Well, maybe you want to start your own business. My main point really with this pillar concept is to help you recognize that you are more than your relationship with your ex. And the best way for you to have emotional control is to have other pursuits outside of your ex that bring you happiness. And it's okay not to know right now what those can be, but it's not okay to sit around on your butt and do nothing about it. And that leads me to my final pillar. Pillar number 3, treating a breakup like the stock market. Every year, Warren Buffett, who I don't think he's the richest man in the world anymore, but he's among the richest men in the world. He holds a conference for the shareholders of Berkshire and Hathaway. He's the chairman of Berkshire and Hathaway, which is sort of like this, I don't know if it's like a holding company. It's just stocks. Okay. Just associate with stocks. He basically allows shareholders to ask him questions. And to be honest with you, I've never actually watched a full event of him doing this because it's 5 hours long. And some of the questions that get asked are a little over my head. Yet there's one clip that I always come back to. It's basically him arguing that the average person who knows nothing about the stock market can get rich if they just park the money that they've saved into an index fund like an S&P 500 and never touch it. But there's a subtext to a statement that gets lost on most people. You see, most people get the shiny dollar sign eyes and only think of like, oh, wow, I can get rich. But the hardest part isn't executing the trade. It's sitting and waiting. It's doing nothing. It's being cold and calculating. The people who do well in stocks and in business usually are those individuals willing to take emotion out of the equation. They'll take a look at numbers and make decisions solely based on them, which is why I found this comment in our private Facebook support group to the original question that sort of sparked this whole discussion about staying calm interesting. Well, these are great responses. Also, it helped me to think of the texting phase like a science project and take emotions out of it. Very hard, I know. If it worked, then it would be fantastic. And if not, at least I tried my best possible system to get him back. Well, it worked, wink face. Wishing you all the best on your journey. If you want to learn to stay calm when an ex ignores you, I think it's best to take this approach. Look at the silence for what it probably is and avoid an ex who at some point will probably get back in touch with you. Combined with all the other techniques I've shown you, you'll find two things begin to happen. Your ex begins to take more of an interest in you. You begin to not really want your ex back anymore. To me, that's a win-win.